Hello, welcome. I'm Hannah. My last video was a first impressions with the Glamlite Chucky palette, which I recommend watching if you're curious more about the performance of this palette or stuff like that. But I realized during that this palette was potentially dupeable within my single shadow collection. That's kind of a goal that I had, to try to dupe out palettes before I just went ahead and purchased them, and I just skipped right over that with this. I assumed it couldn't be done, and I purchased a palette knowing that there was probably reasons why I wouldn't have all of the shades in my collection. So I decided during that I wanted to give it a shot to dupe it, and that's what we're doing today. So first we're going to take a look at my indie single shadows, put together a collection that most closely resembles the Glamlite Chucky palette, and then after that I'm going to put my single shadows in one eye and the Glamlite Chucky palette on the other eye, and we'll see how they compare. I might be wearing them both right now. Make your guesses now for which one's which, but let's just get into my hands. Okay, I have my Chucky palette, and I have an empty magnetic palette that I will be making my dupe Chucky palette in. I already went through my collection and separated out some shadows that I feel like fit the theme. So that's what all of these shadows over here are. And I think what I want to do first is try to put in the shades that I feel like are really kind of like the one-for-one comparisons, and then after that we'll fill it in with the ones that are a little bit more of a stretch and the ones that are a complete stretch, because I know for sure I don't have a direct comparison for all of these. Okay, that's actually a little bit more than I thought it would be. You know, of course, I feel like almost all of these are a little bit of a stretch. Like, this purple doesn't look exactly like that purple, but as I mentioned in the video where I first tried this out, I felt like the look that I did using this one could have been created with Glaminatrix Burlesque, so that is what that one is, and I think it really will fill its spot, even if it doesn't look exactly the same in the palette. So the ones that I don't have at all are this like charcoal gray here, a deep charcoal gray shimmer, a black shimmer, and this like black sequin with like micro sparkle in it. So I think I'm just going to be a little bit creative for those spots. So for the two shimmers, or I guess I'll call it three shimmers. Let's see some options. And actually maybe we'll just look for four shimmers, because it's not like I have any mattes that are close to this that I'm still looking through. Any matte that I would put there would be a stretch, so might just stick to shimmers because I love shimmers. And always when I dupe a palette, it makes me realize the ratio of shimmers and mattes. And this ratio is definitely a little bit heavy in the matte department for my personal taste. Okay, I have some I know I'm going to take out of the running because they just don't look that exciting to me. So this like depotted tart one, I'm going to take out. This red Adept, because I had that other red one that I ended up putting in. We will go through and swatch all the ones that I pick out eventually, by the way. I think I do want to include Terra Moon's Veil Nebula. It's such like a gorgeous, weird, purpley, deep, grungy shadow, and I feel like it does go with the theme of the palette. So I don't know where yet, but I am going to stick it in the corner. Mystic Moonpie from Devinah. I feel like this one also goes with the theme. It has like a cool tone shimmer, some warmth in the base, and it's really, really lovely. So I'm going to stick that in the corner as well. At first, I felt pretty confident that I would do this Adept shimmer. This is Ava from the Minka palette, because when it comes to like looking for a dark gray shimmer, this is the closest thing that I have, but I'm not sure, because now that I'm kind of opening the floor up, I feel like I have other good options. I'm going to stick that in the corner anyway, though. A couple other choices. We have Scream from Looxi, Hyperspace from Terra Moons, which I love, but I feel like either of these would go in the spot of No Place from Home from Devinah that I already have in there, so I'm probably not going to include these. I have a couple Cleona ones in the running. These two black-based multi-chromes, I have Forge and Smolder. I feel like I wouldn't put in Forge because it does have so much green in it. We're staying away from green in the palette. But what about Smolder? I think this one does go green also, actually. So maybe that's enough of a reason to not do this. And then Solder is the other Cliona one I pulled out, but this one also goes green. I don't know. Let's look at the other options. Venus in Chains from Terra Moons. This would be really bright. Oh, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do an inner corner shade. This is Red Giant from Terra Moons, and this one does fit the theme to me because it has that like red iridescence to it. So although the Chucky palette doesn't have any shadows this light in it, a shadow this light is what makes a palette ultra usable for me. It means that I don't have to reach into another palette to create a complete look. So for that reason, since we're renovating it anyway, I think I do want to include this. And I think I feel okay leaving out like those purples and Looxi Abracadabra that I have down there. Yeah, let's look at the palette again. Yeah. Yeah, not spot on, but it has the idea. It's better because it has more pretty shimmery shades than the Chucky palette does. And the only shadows that we're really leaving out are like the grays and the extra black ones, and those are shadows that I really don't reach for anyway. And this just makes me wish that I did this before buying this palette, because I totally could have, and I think I would have realized then that even though this looked so absolutely unique, that's just because I would never independently arrange my shadows like this, but it can be done. Okay, I did move these four around a little bit more, and I think I like it better like this. I'm not sure, but it's sticking for now. I'm gonna do some swatches of this on one side, these lined up next to it, and we can see just how similar these actually are. These swatches look so dry and washed out. I have a feeling the single shadow side is going to be very impressive. We have a depotted silver from Colourpop. I think it was from like the Smoke Show palette or whatever that was called. Colourpop Chic Happens. This is definitely more of like a tan as opposed to the gray and the Glamlite, but I think of it as being a cooler transition color, so that's why I included that one. Devinah Mystic Moonpie, Terra Moons Veil Nebula. Colourpop Get Out, which is definitely warmer, but a pretty good comparison. No Place Like Home from Devinah, which is, I think, a pretty good comparison also, of like a black shade with that purple shimmer in it. Glaminatrix Burlesque, definitely way more pigmented. And this is a depotted red from the Colourpop Cherry palette. I can't remember the cute name it had. I just realized I thought I was putting Devinah Meraki here, but this is Terra Moon's Chestnut. But I'm going to put Meraki there because it goes for that shade better. Kind of does change the look of the palette though, overall. Huh. The shade is from the Temptalia and Sydney Grace Radiant Reflection palette. And then we have Heartbreaker from Looxi, or Heartthrob rather. Red Giant from Terra Moons. Ava from the Adept Minka palette. Meraki from Devinah. Harvest Moon from Terra Moons. And a depotted Colourpop Black. And that is my dupe palette compared to the Chucky palette. Definitely overall a lot brighter and more saturated, but that is exactly what I'm looking for in a palette. Wow. I can't believe how much prettier the single shadow version looks. This just looks a little bit more like drab to me. And I feel like from these swatches, you know, if you give it a 1 second thought, it's hard to tell what's matte and what's shimmery. And like this, it's so lively, just jumps right out at you. Oh wow, I like it so much more. I can't believe I just figured I wouldn't be able to dupe the Chucky palette and didn't try until I bought it. Okay, so we're going to switch over to my face, and I'm going to do a look on one eye with my palette and one eye with the Chucky palette and see how it compares. At first I was thinking I could try the same look that I did last time because I'm pretty sure I could get a pretty similar look with the color options that I have in front of me, but now that I see how my gorgeous palette looks, I feel inspired and I want to do something a little bit more creative. If the Glamlite side can't keep up, then the Glamlite side can't keep up. So I'm going to do Glamlite on my left eye, and I'm going to do my Indie Single Shadows on my right eye. First I'm going to go in with Good Guys, and for my side it'll be Colourpop Chic Happens. I'm going to use the same brush, but I will clean it off in between. I also already have a primer on. There is definitely a big tone difference with these, and it's funny that like Chic Happens is generally too cool for me to want to put in my crease, and then this is just like way cooler. In fact, I almost decluttered Chic Happens, and I ended up keeping it because I feel like I want to try using it on my lid, but I still haven't done that, and it's been a couple months since I saved it. Oh. I gotta remember to not do that. A little bit lower on the inner part of the crease, I'm going to go in with Scarier Than Ever. This one here that I originally thought might be a normal crease shade for me, but it's deeper than I want it to be. And then on my side, it's going to be Colourpop Get Out. These colors are a little odd together because this one is way warmer than that gray. But that works. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, this blend is a lot more natural. I know the colors do go better together, but I also like these formulas are a little bit more tried and true. I'm not someone who really purchases from Colourpop anymore, but the matte singles that I still have in my collection from them, I do tend to enjoy. So I don't know with the Glamlite side if it's just because of the tones being off, or if these are also less blendable on top of that. I want to add a little red to the outer parts of the crease, so for the Chucky side, I'm going to do Till Death Do Us Part, and it's going to be Looxi Heartthrob for my side. Ooh, I don't like working with this. That definitely took over that section way more than I thought it would. I'm not loving the shape, and these tones are so different. I don't love how this looks, but whenever I do something a little out of the box, I feel like I never like how it looks until the end. So we're just going to keep going. I'm going to do a cut crease, which I haven't done in so long, but I felt inspired, so I'm going to lay that down. A little bit of an odd shape, but I'm kind of into it. And hey, if that much of the crease is covered up, maybe these eyes have a chance of resembling each other. Pretty weird. We're going with it. I'm gonna use silver for the inner half. It's probably one of the shadows I'm least excited about from my Indie Single Shadow palette, but it's really the only lighter shadow that's actually in the Glamlite palette, so I feel like I need to stick to that to not have the two eyes go too off course, you know? I like how that looks along the crease. Well, this one's definitely going on way easier. But it does highlight how bad the shape of this cut crease is. Because this one really got out of hand. And then I tried to match this one up and did not succeed. But the gist of the silver is still there with both of them. And then for the outer parts, I think I'm going to do Chucky and Tiff Forever from this. And then from my side, I think I'm going to do Veil Nebula from Terra Moons. And I'm excited about it. Okay. I think the messiness of this one's a little bit distracting here. Eh? How do we do? I hate it. Yeah, I kind of hate it. I'm gonna clean this up and we'll come back for the lower lash line. Okay, I am feeling a little inspired to do something a little bit bold on the lower lash line, especially because when I did the purple look, when I was first trying it out, I stayed pretty safe on the lower lash line, but I just want to add some more elements into this. So what I think I'm going to do is do this red into the black. So then in my palette, it would be Terra Moon's Harvest Moon, which I believe was from the Urban Outfitters collab that they had, into the depotted Colourpop black. Now that I picked up that Glamlite one, it looks so dark. Huh. Yeah, I'm looking at my swatch. I don't know if you can see from the angle, but I think it does look way more like a cherry cola type of color than this Terra Moon's one. Not a bad type of formula to have down here. I feel like this is kind of one of those like soft shimmers that tends to stay put really well. I'm trying to do this really gently to minimize fallout, but I already see a couple little flecks coming. Okay. So much brighter. It definitely added a new weird element to the look, but I think I do prefer it on my indie shadow side because the brightness does kind of match the brightness of the crease. And over here, I feel like it's just so dark and heavy underneath the eye, which is something I generally try to stay away from. For the inner corner, I'm going to do Terra Moon's Red Giant. I'm just going to do this on both eyes because I think if I was doing this look with just the Glamlite palette, I would reach for an iridescent. It would just be like a little bit more annoying, you know? Okay, I'm going to finish up the whole look and then we'll come back for some more thoughts. And this is the finished look. I do think it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting now that it's come together, but I definitely prefer the indie single shadow side, even with all of its faults. I like the shape of the cut crease better here. I like how it's just kind of like poking out on the side with that burgundy, and this has like a little bit more of an uneven ring of that red above it. But I think the biggest difference is that bright red underneath. I think it keeps my eye open here, and here I just feel so closed off. But, you know, you can tell that they're meant to be the same look. So that was important to me in making this, but pretty cool. What do you think? Which one do you prefer? I also used Charlotte Tilbury Walk of No Shame liner in my waterline. My lips are the Colourpop Nightmare Before Christmas lipstick from like 2 years ago or something. I think those are really the only things of note. I don't think I put highlighter on. I put my switcher back on and I went to Target since the last clip. It's funny being in public with not my usual makeup on because I always kind of like, you know, if I notice someone looking at me, I imagine what I think they're thinking, and it's completely a reflection of what I think about it. So I was like kind of feeling neutral about this. I think it's funny though that I'm like a little insecure about the logistics of the cut crease, but in person, like no one's gonna notice that the cut crease isn't great. And I think also like I haven't done it on any sort of regular basis in like 2 or 3 years, so it makes sense that like I'm a little rusty at it. But I was also thinking about how when I did the original Chucky look, which was a couple days ago at this point, and I had that deep purple look on, I was in public after that and I was like, everyone thinks I look weird. Everyone thinks I look weird. And I was like, oh, clearly I just think I look weird. It's been quite a journey with this palette. And I think I've really shown myself the importance of trying to dupe it with my single shadows before I go ahead and order. It's been a long time since I've bought makeup, not necessarily for my channel, that I regretted after. And I think, you know, a little bit of it is just part of being a makeup lover and makeup consumer. Sometimes you get caught up and you don't make the best decision, and it is what it is. But it could have been avoided by me trying to make looks with my makeup, because me learning that I feel self-conscious in public with dark, intense eye looks on isn't something that I needed the Chucky palette to learn. I could have learned that by putting on Glaminatrix Burlesque and Devinah No Place Like Home and heading out. I also need to remember, as I shrink down my single shadow collection, that even if I can't dupe out the entire palette shadow for shadow, I could still like dupe the vibes a la Hannah Louise Poston. I could still look at the palette and think which shadows would I reach for, what look would I do, and just try to recreate that with my makeup. And I think next time I want to buy a palette, that's something that I need to do first. Even if it's not a video, even if it's just me doing my makeup for the night, it's such an important like think piece to ensure that you're making purchases that are true to yourself. So about the Glamlite Chucky palette, I do think it has strong points. I think someone who really craves dark makeup, maybe doesn't keep a large single shadow collection, could enjoy it. I see value in purchasing palettes to have the shadows that you want together, even if they are repeats in your collection. But I do think I'm going to hold off on buying Glamlite palettes in the future. I kind of made up my mind when I ranked my palettes that I bought in 2021 that I wasn't going to buy palettes that I knew weren't going to be up to my standards quality-wise. And that was when I stopped buying Colourpop shimmers, for example. And although I've had some luck with some of their palettes, I do like the Red Velvet palette and I do like the Chocolate Martini palette so far. I think swatching these against my indie single shadows really highlighted to me that the mattes I already have in my collection and the shimmers I already have in my collection are just way better. So I'm not going to say I'm swearing off Glamlite forever. I'm not going to say I think they're bad, but I am going to say I'm at least taking a break from buying their palettes, which doesn't mean much because it's not like I buy their palettes so much anyway, but just a little personal takeaway from this whole endeavor. That's going to be everything for today though. I hope this was fun to watch. I hope this provided some useful information or made you appreciate your single shadows more. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It really means a lot to me, and thank you so much for being here. Bye.